Hello. Today I'm going to talk about differential time frame analysis. Period. This is going to be a second look at the topic, but also a first look at it in a different approach. It's going to be a bit complicated to explain, but easy once you see it in operation. I'm going to start with ETHUSD as the coin that I'm going to trade on. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to convert it to a line. From the standpoint of the line, you see all the basic settings. Works out well. You can even hide it, and we'll go into a lot of that later. But now comes the second part. I'm going to compare different items. For example, I want to load ADA with the base currency of Bitcoin. Now I'm going to load ADA with a base currency of Ether. ADA with a base currency of USDT. And finally, ADA with a base currency of USDC. So now that we have 4 different coins, I'm going to do some hiding so I can do some color changes so that we can make the coins. Let's turn this to a let's go with the teal. Okay, and let's change this one to a weird color. Okay, so let's make sure all of our coins are different colored. Now we're going to zoom in. We have all of these different versions of Bitcoin for 5 different markets. I'm going to use these 4 markets: BTC, ETH, USDT, and USDC to buy the USD market. As you can see, the price action is very different. That also means the trading volume is very different. And that's where we're going to actually take, instead of just focusing on the exchange, even though these are the same exchanges in this case, by going across different markets, you'll be able to get a pulse of the market. And that is exactly what we want, is to get a pulse of the market for this one single coin. So with that in mind, let's clean these off, because I've already written them down. So we don't need these anymore. And we'll go back to our regular charting. From here, I'm going to load the analyzer. soon as I find the analyzer. Now, for the purposes of what we are doing, I'm going to simply set it up with all the basic functionality that I typically like to have. Be sure to factor in your commission, and something to be aware of. When you cross exchanges, base your commission on the highest exchange. That is important because of the way the algorithm works when we start piecing together all of the different exchanges into one single format. So now we're going to go with the module. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use moving averages because it's a simple process and it is an easy enough format that I can demonstrate the process very easy. I'm not going to use crossovers or anything like that. I'm actually going to use a very simplistic approach. I'm going to use the 37 rule, and I'm going to set this to the sine weighted moving average. One single line. Nice and easy. I'm going to leave everything else the same, with one exception. I'm going to put my signal deviation at 2%, just to filter whipsaw. So right now on ETHUSD, but I don't want this looking at USD. So this is where the ticker symbol comes into place. Now for the first couple of modules, I brushed over this. Today, we're going to use it. And I'm going to use BTC. So, ETA BTC is what this moving average is going to be built on. Okay, there we go. Now you'll notice a whole different process and a very strange process. Why? Because price action is completely scrambled right now. So it's trying to use this chart or this scale for the BTC market. Internally it shows up properly, but on the chart it can be confusing. We're not quite through yet. I picked 4 coins. So because of that, I'm also going to be using a confirmation bias. And I'm going to be using a second coin and a confirmation. Okay, let's get back in here. Now, just to make things simple, I'm going to set this back to 0 so you can see this part of it. So the confirmation ticker symbol, this time, well, providing I spell right, going to use ETH as the second coin. Although, you know what? I think I'm going to mess this up a little more. I'm going to use USDT on this one. SWMA will be the moving average of choice. And again, we're going to use a 37 rule to accomplish it by. So now let's take a look at what we have. We have ETHUSD being purchased and sold based upon the BTC market and the USDT market. So, nice and simple approach. Now let's link the analyzer. Let's take and set the analyzer to the moving average, and we will disable any short positions for now. And we will get an analysis. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. So I keep track of what I'm doing. BTC/USDT. So I'm using the BTC USDT markets on this indicator. Now, we're going to load a second moving average. Again, I'm going to go with simplicity. And we're going to set it up for the ETHUSDC market. Now let's just get straight into it and get everything set up. The order by which you set things up doesn't matter as long as you keep track of what you are doing. So ticker symbol, ETH. Same thing, we are going to go with the sine wave moving average. And we are going to pick the 37 rule. Now we're going to go straight into confirmation. And we're going to go with the USDC market. Now you can actually change these around, but for the purposes of what I'm demonstrating, I want to keep this simple. There's a lot here that you can do to really take this to a whole different market level. Same thing, we'll leave everything the same. And now we have the markets appropriate to how they align up. This one here aligns with BTCUSDT. This one here aligns with ETHUSDC. Now we're going to go one step further. We are going to take and link the two together. So now that all four markets will be the deciding factor of the USD market. And this is where things can get crazy. As you can see, we have two moving averages. The one we want is the second one. Now we may need to play with this a little bit to get price action to be better suited. Right now I'm using a moving average length of 37. But now I'm going to actually go and start scaling down the amounts to generating my signals. So now we are going to move it down to 13. And I will move this one also down to 13. And we will get a combined weight of both at a smaller time frame. So this will give the pulse of the market for 4 different base currencies. So you're not just dealing with the trading volume of one base currency, but you're dealing with the trading volume of 4 different base currencies. Now, profitability-wise, well, that's obviously going to be a question. How profitable is this going to be? Right now, we do not have a dollar cost averaging module. But as you can see, for the last 17 days, it made about $15 by itself. Not bad for comparing 4 different markets to purchase a coin on the USD market. Now, the thing to keep in mind, the irony of this entire process, is we are at no time actually analyzing the price action of the USD market itself. We are using the base currencies of Bitcoin, Ether, USDT, and USDC markets to buy and sell on the USD market. This technique gives you a way of finding the pulse of a market globally, as well as making up the shortfall for an exchange that may not be directly supported. It's a technique that can prove quite useful on many levels. And it's something that as you develop over time, you will be able to maximize. Now we are going to add dollar cost averaging to this and actually build a complete and total trading recipe. Go into the settings, disable the signal line, and pick the second moving averages. Now for this particular setting, I want 1% deviation and I want a 1.5% take profit. I'm going to set this to 51. Basically at 1% deviation, I'm going to cover 50% of the coin's volume. Okay, there we have it. And now we're going to take the analyzer and we're going to hook the analyzer to the dollar cost averaging module. Now, as you can see, right now I'm using just flat dollar cost averaging, not strategy based. So once the initial purchase is made, the DCA module drives everything, and it does very well. But let's change that. Let's just use the strategy itself. The buy method will be the strategy. The sell method will also be the strategy. Now it'll update itself, and we will get a new chart based upon exactly how it works. As you can see, the maximum number of purchases in one single run is only 5. So basically, for the last 17 days, it only used $55 at most. And it still produced with such a small level, $15. That is a pretty good ratio between the positions to the amount of funds actually used. So using 4 different base currency markets, we were able to achieve a fairly consistent, low risk, low capital paradigm or recipe that does very well. This technique is one that is grossly underestimated with differential time frame analysis. Most people just think of changing the time frame or changing different time frames across different algorithms. Now, while this is simplistic because I only used moving averages, you can do this with any of the Jackrabbit modulus frameworks. You can use a wide variety of markets to get a global pulse of a single coin and make a very effective, safe, low-profile trading strategy that does remarkably well. From this standpoint, I haven't really gone into all that you can do. I've only changed the ticker symbol. All of these different things can be changed and tuned for each and every single coin. For this particular example, I stayed on one exchange, Binance. But you don't have to stay on Binance. You can pick any coin, any market, any exchange, whether it's KuCoin, Huobi, Binance, Binance America, Poloniex, all of these markets are available at one single time. And you can use all of these markets to compare across each other to build your trading paradigm. I've only just touched the surface of what you are actually capable of doing with differential time frame analysis. There is so much more that you can do, that you can examine, that it would take me a lifetime of videos to cover every single possible choice you can make. Such a simple process, and yet, because of it, it's able to do incredibly well with an incredibly small budget. It's important that when you look at the modulus framework, don't get stuck into a single box, thinking you can only use one exchange to make your trading decisions. You may trade on one exchange. You may trade on one base currency, but that doesn't mean you can't use other exchanges and other base currencies, or even different coins, to buy and sell the coin you actually want. This is just a very small example of what's available to you. take the time to play around with some of these indicators and really stretch your thinking and open some doors to what options you really have. This is a true representation of a true global market, not just one exchange. Take your trading to the next level. Think about your trading in the context of what it really means as a global market trader. Cryptocurrency isn't limited to just one country or one region or one jurisdiction. It is a cross of the entire world. Each exchange has its own trading volume. Each exchange has its own idiosyncrasies. By using this technique, as I just did with this very simple example, you can take advantage of a natural arbitration process and a natural volume differential process to give you a better view of a global market. Until next time.